On June 29, we have a full moon happening at 8 degrees in Capricorn. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the energy of this full moon and who is going to feel this energy the most. And I will do a reading for the whole full 12 signs. Hi, my name is Christine. I'm an astrologer and a life coach, and I help women in midlife challenges. I work with astrology as a practical tool for self-awareness, emotional growth, and better decision making. If you enjoy this type of work and if you would like to receive more astrology guidance, make sure that you subscribe to this channel so you do not miss a video. And if you would like to receive a daily moon guidance, weekly astrology reflections, weekly classes recorded, and guided practices, coaching tools, please join my membership, the Evolving Self membership. The links are below in the description box. Now, the full moon represents culmination, a completion, a realization, an ending to something that began average of 6 months ago, specifically on January 18 this year, at the beginning of this year. This was the new moon in Capricorn. Now comes the full moon in Capricorn, and it's a culmination to whatever you started back then. You're completing now in this full moon phase. So you're being asked to look honestly at your life, to acknowledge what is working and what is not, to acknowledge what no longer fits in your current phase, and to release the pressure to continue carrying responsibilities that have served their purpose in your life. Now, Capricorn is the sign of achievement, responsibility. It's the sign of commitment, structure. It's the sign, the steady build sign, the steady build of long-term plans. It's also the sign of authority, career, and public recognition or public image. So with Capricorn, we need to ask ourselves, whatever we are building, is it sustainable or is it worth it? Is it worth the cost? Does it reflect who you want to be or how you want to show up in life? For many people, especially this full moon will bring a realization that something has served its purpose, or the structure itself has outgrown its purpose. So some of you might realize that the career path no longer fulfills them anymore. You might realize that the responsibility has become very heavy. A role that you have been carrying is no longer yours to carry. A goal that you once wanted is no longer aligned by who you are becoming now. There is the energy of the 8 degrees, and the energy of the 8 degrees, according to the degree theory, 8 degrees carries the energy of Scorpio and the 8th house. Even though it's a full moon happening in Capricorn, having it happened at the 8 degrees energy adds another layer to the full moon story. Because the 8th house is about transformation, it's about surrender, it's about shared resources, it's about emotional attachments, it's the power dynamics, it's endings and new beginnings. This is a Scorpio related energy. It means that something in your life is transforming. The significance of having a full moon in in Capricorn, Cancer is the opposite sign of Capricorn. It has a meaning as well because the sun is in Cancer right now, but the full moon is happening in Capricorn. The significance of having a full moon in Capricorn at the same time Jupiter is ready to enter Leo and Mercury is ready to go retrograde in Cancer, and I have completed 2 separate videos on each of those subjects. So please make sure that you watch them and listen to them so that you can get the full picture. So having this full moon happening at the same time, Jupiter enters Leo, Mercury goes retrograde in Cancer. It's the beginning of a whole year of journey in connecting with joy or reconnecting with joy and creativity and passion and self-expression. Mercury goes retrograde in Cancer and reflects on your nurturance needs, the ones specific that you haven't received in childhood, the ones that is reconditioning or conditioning you at this time of some of the responsibilities that you think is still yours to carry. And this comes the full moon and tells you you need to release those thoughts or those roles that no longer fits your current phase in life. And goes Jupiter in Leo and tells you you need to have more joy, you need to have more aliveness, to feel happy, to create, to have passion, to self-express yourself. So it's all connected together. As Capricorn asks you to release what no longer fits your life, your current phase, Jupiter in Leo asks you what truly lights you up, what brings you joy, what can you start that now will bring you joy in your life, and how can you be serious, because Capricorn is seriousness. How can you be committed and seriousness in practicing joy in your life? Now, Mercury is preparing at the same time, as I mentioned, to retrograde in Cancer. And this is the emotional reflection. Why do we need to go there? Because it's about the choices that we have made, the responsibilities that we have carried, the stories that we have been telling ourselves about being successful or secured or belonging. Are those real stories, or are they coming from childhood conditioning? The three of them is happening at the same time. Jupiter goes in Leo, Mercury goes retrograde in Cancer, and the full moon is happening in Capricorn, which is tying it all together. Now, the ruler of this full moon is Saturn, and it makes and adds another layer of the story, because Saturn represents time, maturity, responsibility, reality. It also represents commitments. Saturn is also the planet of limitations and restrictions and delays and boundaries and reality checks. Wherever Saturn is active, it asks us to face reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. So Saturn is a master teacher. It teaches us through experience. It shows us where discipline is needed, and it also rewards us when we learn the lesson and pass the test. Saturn reminds us that limitations are not punishments. They are information. They show us where the adjustments are needed, because stronger boundaries are required, and we're being asked to build something more sustainable for us. Sometimes the greatest lesson that Saturn is teaching us is realizing that you can no longer do what you have been doing 10 or 20 years ago. And this is one of the lessons that we are going to face during this full moon in Capricorn. Now, this full moon, at the same time, Saturn is actually sitting in Aries, and Saturn in Aries is creating additional story to this full moon story. It's asking us to build something new because it's Aries. Aries is a starter, something completely new. It's reflecting who you are now instead of who you used to be or who you were expected to be, or whether those expectations are coming from you internally or are being projected on you from outside. So many women are discovering that the structures they built during early chapters in their life are no longer sustainable, no longer supporting the person they are becoming, especially in midlife. Many of us are realizing, I don't want to keep proving myself. I don't want to carry those things anymore, those burdens. I don't want success that costs me my peace. I don't want to be climbing a mountain that no longer matters to me. Whenever we realize that, this full moon, we're looking at the lessons behind this full moon. And the ruler is telling us a lot, which is Saturn. How is the story unfolding for us? Where are these lessons coming from? Saturn is making some aspects, and these aspects are going to tell us more. However, even though those aspects are not with major planets, it's with asteroids. So it's with Sirius, Pallas, Ceres. These are all asteroids, but these minor aspects are also considered important because it's teaching us something very important during this full moon. Saturn is going to square Sirius in Cancer. Sirius is one of the interesting alignments because Sirius is in a square with Saturn, and Sirius right now is in Cancer. Sirius have been known as the brightest star in the sky, and it's also associated with authority, leadership, and destiny. So with the square to Saturn, it's telling us that for some of us, our failings are disconnected from our achievements, where some of those achievements lost its meaning because it came at the expense of personal happiness. Because success without emotional fulfillment eventually feels empty at the end. So this is one of the lessons. The second one is having Saturn sextile Ceres in Gemini. So there is Sirius and there is Ceres. The beautiful support in this full moon, because it's sextile, so it's supporting. It's not a square. It's not a challenge like the one before. This one is coming from a sextile, from Saturn to Ceres in Gemini. A sextile is an opportunity. It opens the door. It offers support if we are willing to use it. Ceres represents nurturing, mothering, emotional nourishment, and how we care for ourselves during transitions. This is incredibly important because while the full moon is asking you to release old structures that no longer serve you, Ceres comes and showing you how you can support yourself during this process. It's in Gemini. And it's coming through understanding, because Gemini is about conversation. It's about learning. It's about becoming aware rather than fearful. So there's a lot of awareness happening with this sextile with Ceres in Gemini. Now, the third one is Saturn is having a sextile also with Pallas in Aries. Another important supporting influence in this full moon, because Saturn sextile to Pallas, it represents the Pallas Athena is an asteroid that represents wisdom, strategic thinking, and for women in midlife, Pallas often activates the wise woman archetype, which is you realize that there is more efficient way to work. A problem that you've been carrying is not yours to carry, is not yours to solve. A responsibility that needs new boundaries. A long-term goal that needs a new approach. And this is the restructure that I was talking about at the beginning of this video. Okay, now back to the full moon aspects itself. We talked about the ruler of the full moon, which is Saturn, and the aspects it's creating during the full moon. The full moon itself, it's creating some aspects as well. And these are a little bit challenging aspects. So what's happening now is the full moon is actually squaring Neptune in Aries. So this is one of the primary aspects of this full moon. It's a square, it's a challenge. It's happening. Neptune right now in Aries is at 4 degrees. So, and the full moon is happening at 8 degrees. So there is about 4 degrees difference, but we can still feel the energy. It's not an exact aspect, but we can still feel it. So it creates tension. Why do we still feel it? Because in full moon and all lunations and new moons, we feel the energy more intense. So it's creating a tension. A tension meaning that the two planets are not talking in harmony. Neptune can create confusion in its shadow side. Neptune can create uncertainty, idealism, illusion, escapism. You can escape reality with Neptune. It's a shadow side. And Capricorn wants facts. Neptune dissolves facts or make it feel unclear and foggy. And this can create a temporary feeling of uncertainty. So you might find yourself questioning, is this still the right path? Do I really want this? What happens if I stop trying to work so hard at that? Who am I becoming during this process? So these are all reflective questions that you can ask yourself during this full moon. Now, all of this is normal, especially for women going through midlife phase, because the transition is not always easy and the path is not fully visible. And there is a shift in roles and responsibilities, so things are not always clear. For some people, the old vision is dissolving before the new vision starts to appear clearly, and you can feel uncomfortable during this process. But remember, Neptune's intention is not to misguide you or confuse you. Neptune is dissolving the parts of you that no longer fits, or the parts of you that were built in from obligation rather than authenticity. And it's asking you to let go of those old identities that no longer serve you in the coming phases in your life. So it's actually serving you in somehow. All the challenges, if we rise up to the challenge and use it, it can result in a beautiful, beautiful conclusion. And, the word is outcome. So allow clarity to emerge naturally during this time. Now, there is another aspect that's happening, and this time it's happening with Pluto. It's a quincunx, Pluto in Aquarius. Quincunx is not a major aspect in astrology, but it's a significant one. Because it's happening with Pluto, it makes it even more significant. So quincunx is an adjustment needed in some area. It points your attention to something that needs your attention in this area, something that cannot continue exactly the same way it has been going on. So Pluto is a planet that represents transformation, power, control, deep change, and Pluto in Aquarius is transforming the collective, is changing our relationship with our communities and our space with society. And this full moon is asking you one question with this quincunx. Who are you trying to maintain control over? Something that has already changed or changing. For some women in midlife, it could be a career. transition, or it could be a retirement decision, or it could be family roles with kids leaving home. Empty nest becomes a reality. Financial responsibilities, especially with the changing economy right now and the inflation and increase in prices. So the long-term plans are changing, and that needs adjustment. So with all this adjustment, the old strategy can no longer take you where you need to go next. And here needs a revise of the structure. Again, the structure is being revised. So who will feel this full moon the most? Well, anybody with cardinal sign. Cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Of course, Capricorn, the full moon is happening there. So these are the signs that will feel this full moon very strong, especially anyone with personal planets or angles between 4 and 12 degrees in those signs. You will feel the energy the most, very intense. Personal planets are the Sun, the Moon, Venus, Mercury, and Mars, or ascendant is considered personal as well. So if you have planets in those degrees, this full moon is likely bringing an important realization for you, a culmination, an ending, a turning point in your life. And, it means something. There is a message there. So I hope you realize it and see exactly what it's trying to tell you. Now, I'm going to go through each sign. I highly encourage you to go for your rising sign. If you still want to listen to your sun sign or moon sign, please do so with guidance. The rising sign will tell you exactly which area in your life this full moon is going to impact you. For Aries, it's happening in your 10th house, the house of career, public image, the house of achievements, of legacy, the house of how you are showing up to the public. And Aries, this is a major culmination point in your professional or your public life. If you are retired for the last 6 months, something has been building around your career, around your public role, leadership position, or business, or the way you are showing up in the world. And now this full moon brings a moment of truth. You may realize that a goal you have been pursuing is no longer aligned with who you are becoming, because Saturn, the ruler of this full moon, is sitting in your first house and it's focusing on you. You are changing. Because you are changing, your professional life must eventually change as well. You might find yourself asking, do I still want this? Do I still want this role? Do I still want to carry this? Am I carrying too much? What do I want to do in my next chapter? Or how do I want my next chapter to look like? So the square to Neptune in your first house may create temporary uncertainty about your future direction. You don't have all the answers right now, but the full moon will relieve, and the full moon will be revealing what has run its course, and the next chapter will unfold gradually for you. Pluto is in your 11th house. It's also transforming your connections, your social networks, your friendships, your future goals. So long-term goals are evolving for you, Aries. Allow them to be. For Taurus, it's happening in your 9th house. The house of belief system, the house of higher education, the house of growth, the house of travel. Taurus, this full moon is asking you to examine beliefs that have shaped your life. Something about your worldview is changing. You may realize the expectations or assumptions that guided you for years no longer fit in this phase right now. This can happen through education, teaching, growth, travel, legal matters even, or retirement planning. It can show up for you as you no longer see life the same way you did before. And Saturn is in your 12th house, is encouraging deep inner work. You are releasing old fears. You are releasing it from your subconscious or unconscious conditioning. Meanwhile, Pluto is transforming your 10th house, which is the house of career and the house of public image if you are retired. Your professional identity is changing, whether you consciously initiate the change or it's actually happening for you. Either ways, something is changing, and the full moon is revealing exactly what belief system need to be released so you can step in your next chapter. Gemini, it's happening in your 8th house of transformation, of shared resources, of intimacy, of investments, of emotional attachments. Gemini, this is a deeply transformative full moon for you because 8th house is asking you to let go of something that no longer serve you. For some of you, this involves finances, investments, retirement planning, or shared resources. The realization might be that you cannot continue carrying the same pattern in the coming phase. Saturn is in your 11th house and it's helping you redefine your future goals and your connections. The people around you are changing. The vision for your future is changing. Because Pluto is transforming your 9th house, your entire perspective on life is evolving. So the full moon is helping you release old emotional contracts that no longer support your growth. Cancer, it's happening in your 7th house, relationships and partnerships. Cancer, your relationships are reaching a turning point. A full moon in your 7th house brings clarity about those relationships. It illuminates what is working versus what is not. For some of you, this is romantic. For others, it involves business partnerships, one-on-one relationships, and even client relationships. So Saturn is in your 10th house. Suggests that career responsibilities might have impacted important relationships in your life. You may be evaluating at this point who supports you, who drains you, what are you overgiving, and what relationships have matured, served its purpose, no longer fit in your life right now. Pluto is in your 8th house. It's transforming your intimacy and trust. The full moon encourages you healthier boundaries and greater authenticity in your closest connections. Leo, this full moon is happening in your 6th house. It's the house of health, well-being, daily habits, daily activities, routine, and pets. And Leo, your daily life is asking you for a change. You cannot keep operating the same way you always had because this full moon is focusing on your health, your daily routine, and how it's impacting you and impacting your stress level and health. So your work responsibilities, how is it impacting your physical well-being? These are questions that you are going to be reflecting on and probably making decisions during this full moon. Many of you might realize that majority of their daily activities are running on obligations rather than inspiration. And Saturn is in your 9th house is asking you to adopt a new philosophy in life towards work and life in general. The old approach is no longer sustainable for you, and Pluto is transforming your relationship area, 7th house. Your relationship are changing. Your role within those relationships is changing as well. And this is the full moon. It's showing you how important self-care is becoming for you in this phase in your life. Virgo, it's happening in your 5th house, the house of joy, creativity, romance, self-expression, and kids. So Virgo, somewhere along the way, life might have become more responsible than joyful for you. This full moon is asking you, where has the joy gone? For many of you, this is return to creativity, return of being alive, of having fun, return to pleasure, a return to the parts of you that felt exciting before all those responsibilities took over. Saturn is in your 8th house. It could be highlighting some financial obligations or shared resources or emotional burdens regarding those areas. You have carried a lot in life, and the full moon now is coming and ask you what needs to be released. Pluto is in your 6th house and is transforming your daily life and daily activities to reflect that change. So a new chapter of well-being is beginning for you, Virgo. Libra, it's happening in your 4th house, the house of home, family, foundational dynamics, your roots. It's also the house of your real estate investments, if you have some of them. So Libra, this full moon brings focus on your home and family life and living conditions. You might be completing a chapter in your life involving some family responsibilities or living arrangements. It also involves some real estate arrangements, if you have some, or aging parents. So it could be kids leaving home. It could be emotional healing happening for you. It could be something that has to do with your parents, aging parents. Something about domestic patterns is taking place during this full moon. Saturn is in your 7th house, is teaching you some maturity lessons. In relationships area, you are learning what healthy ones looks like, what unhealthy ones looks like, and how your one-on-one relationship should continue to evolve at this point. Pluto is in your 5th house, transforming your relationship with joy, creativity, and self-expression. The full moon is asking you, what foundations or dynamics do you want to build in the next chapter of your life? Scorpio, it's happening in your 3rd house of communication, mindset and immediate environment, neighborhood, and siblings. It's also the house of communal. So Scorpio, this full moon is changing how you think. A certain mindset has reached its completion cycle. You may finally recognize a thought pattern, belief, or narrative that has been limiting your growth. Saturn in your sixth house is asking you to follow some discipline in your daily habits. Your health and well being depend on that. So, Pluto is transforming your home and family foundations in the fourth house, where you live, your living conditions. It has been transforming it for a few years and it will continue for another few months or even a year. The way you communicate with yourself matters more now than ever, because those thoughts, choose your thoughts and support your future, because the next phase are dependent on them, whatever you're creating in your life in the next phase. Sagittarius, it's hitting your second house of finances and values and self-worth and resources. Sagittarius, this full moon brings clarity about money, about self-worth, about resources. Some financial chapter may be reaching its completion phase in your life. You might realize a spending pattern or a financial obligation or a scarcity belief or even an outdated definition of success that no longer serve you and needs to leave your life and go. Saturn in your fifth house is asking you to take your joy seriously, not a luxury, but a necessity. Pluto is transforming how you communicate in your third house and how you see yourself. Your value is not determined by what you produce or what you give. Your value is actually all about remembering what this full moon is trying to teach you. So listen to the whole video so that you get to know exactly how you're going to transform your life going forward. Capricorn, it's happening in your first house of identity. So you are the star of this full moon. It's happening at the self. It's happening how you are showing up. Capricorn, you are the focus of this full moon. Something about your identity is reaching a completion. And this phase, you are becoming a new person this year. The person who began this year is not the same person standing here right now. So this is one of the most significant personal full moons for you this year. You may be realizing old expectations, old responsibilities, old roles that no longer fit, or old definitions of success that has been changing. Saturn is in your fourth house. It's restructuring your emotional foundation, your living conditions, your family life. Pluto is transforming your relationship with money, security, and self-worth. So this full moon is asking you who you are becoming now. Aquarius, it's happening in your 12th house of completion, of endings, of hidden areas, of healing, of release. Aquarius, this is a deeply internal full moon for you because something hidden is coming out for light. You might be releasing some grief or fear or emotional baggage, limiting beliefs, past memories even, that needs to be healed and released. Saturn is in your third house, restructuring the way you think, the way you communicate, and Pluto is in your sign, is completely transforming your identity. This full moon is preparing you for a new chapter in your life, helping you to close previous ones. So rest, reflect, release during this full moon. Pisces, it's happening in your 11th house, the house of friendships, the house of community, the house of social networks, and the house of long-term goals. Pisces, your future is changing. A friendship, a social group, a social network, a long-term goal may be reaching its completion phase in your life. You are realizing that not everyone can come with you in the next chapter in your life. So Saturn is in your second house. It's teaching you lessons around self-worth and financial security. Pluto is transforming your subconscious world. The full moon is asking you which dreams still belong to you and which dreams were inherited from other people. As you answer those questions, a new vision for future starts to emerge for you. So that's it for you, Pisces. Thank you for watching. As we close out this full moon in Capricorn, remember that sometimes an ending is simply a sign that you have outgrown a chapter of your life. The full moon is asking you to look honestly at what is working, what is no longer working, and what responsibilities you may be carrying simply because you have always carried them. For many of us in midlife, this is a moment of realization that you may no longer want the same things, or you might no longer define success with the same way you have been defining it. So, and that's okay, because growth requires change. Saturn reminds us every stage of life asks us to become a different version of ourselves. Trust what's being revealed Trust what's being asked to be released, and trust the woman you are becoming, because sometimes the bravest thing we can do is to stop climbing a mountain that no longer belongs to us and choose a path that truly reflects who we are today. Thank you for being here. If this message resonated with you, let me know in the comments, and what are you ready to release and complete at this stage in your life and redefine under this full moon in Capricorn. Until next time, take care of yourself. Keep moving forward one step at a time. Thank you for watching.